Sorry, I had muted it for a minute. Back up.
Oh yeah, live.
Back up. Back up. Back up. Happy Sunday, everybody.
All right,
Happy
all right,
Sunday.
all right. Back it up. All right.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. It's great to be back. Great to be back and talk about all things military, retirement, veteran stuff, and anything that encompasses that entire world as you transition out from the military to civilian life. John, it's great to be back with you, man.
Good to be back, man. It's good to see you again.
So yeah, we got the word out to a lot of folks out there, and both on the YouTube channel and the military retirement group. For anybody out there who's watching, if you haven't joined the military retirement group yet, suggest you join. A lot of good information. I think we're at 1.1600, right? 1600 now. We just reached that, and it's growing, and we're 100% involved with the entire group, shooting out information. We got people who collaborate on there, give tips, etc. So it's a great group, a great thing to be a part of. If you haven't already done so, go on Facebook and join the military retirement group, and subscribe to the podcast, of course.
Yeah, we want you to subscribe, and not because we're trying to boost our egos. I think both of our egos are pretty much been through the roof and then back down after retirement, but really just what it does is it actually puts it out in front of more people. So if you subscribe, if you watch the videos, if you even just put the video on, let it play in the background while you're doing something or whatever, or the podcast, if you're listening to the podcast on any podcast platforms, it really just allows the platform, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or whatever, to push it out to more people who are looking for things in that similar realm. So it gets in front of more veterans, more people who are looking to retire, and the broader we can make the community, the better we can provide better information to the community, because we get more input from the community, and we were able to give out more input and feedback back out to the community. So yeah.
Oh yeah, we love it. We love this stuff. All right, let's see who we got here. Yeah, we got some. I got some topics that I want to share later on in the stream. Things that may or may not affect folks who are retiring or even veterans now, including like GI Bill rules. And let me see. There's a healthcare. It looks like an expansion of veteran healthcare starting March 5th. So I'll be touching on that later on. It has a possibility of affecting a lot of folks for a good reason. And again, I'll get into that a little bit later. There is one thing that was kind of going around at my job. So I work with a lot of Navy, like I mentioned, a lot of stuff going around at work with this was a surface warfare officer. So I work with a lot of surface warfare officers, and there's this guy who's attempting to break a world record, and he's running from Los Angeles to New York, and he's given himself 40 days to do that. So between LA to New York, 40 days to do that, that's about 3,000 miles. He plans to run about 75 miles a day, 13 to 15 hours a day, and at about a 10 to 12 minute pace. So about a 10 to 12 minute pace. Yeah. So here's my first thought on that, man. I was talking to a buddy of mine at work, and I'm thinking, is this what this guy uses leave for? Is it what? I would not choose my leave to run across the country, but to each their own. He's trying to break a world record. More power to the guy.
Yeah, that's insane. That's a good pace though. I wouldn't want to run any faster than that. That's pretty
no, hell no, man.
Pretty heavy duty pace.
Yeah. I was about that pace when I was active duty, still in uniform, but afterwards, I don't know if I could keep up with that pace, man. Yeah, I'm sure I'd have to do the run walk every so often.
So we do have a couple of guys who came to join us. If you want to bring them on, we've got Jerome Dingle and we've got Justin Murphy. Whenever you're ready, we can pop them up.
Let's do it. All right.
More
the merrier.
Let me grab Jerome Rome, what's going on?
How you doing?
Good, man. How you been? Let me grab
Pretty good.
Justin and get him up here too. Hey, Justin, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
Gentlemen, how are you?
Good.
Great.
Awesome. So yeah, we were just getting into some recent topics going on around the veteran world and all that. And just real quick, I know, Justin, we've had you on for a while before. Jerome, I don't think we've met directly. Can you just give us a little bit of background on yourself, just so the viewers or anybody watching can understand where you're coming from?
Sure. I'm retired Army, did 27 years, 10 months as what we call a 19 Delta, which is a cavalry scout. And then as you advance, the two tracks, whether it be 19 kilos, which are tankers, and scouts, once you hit the E8 realm, they both become 19 Zulus. So I did some time as a first sergeant, and then of course some time as a master sergeant before retiring out of Fort Bragg in 2015.
All right on, man. I appreciate that. And how long were you in again?
I was in for 27 years and 10 months.
Oh man, you went the long haul, huh?
Yeah, I had when I left home, I knew what my plan was and what I was going to do. So there was no second guessing or trying to figure out how long I was going to stay or what I wanted to do. My father's career military, so the life was something I was very accustomed to. So it wasn't hard at all. At least not for me.
You knew the life. I think that's a big thing with folks who are looking to get out, is they don't understand or they don't really know exactly what's going to happen after. That's good that you had that, I guess, that life before you actually joined. You knew what to expect for the most part. A lot of folks don't really have that. So that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, what's going on, Justin?
I mean, just enjoying life, I guess. Still, I guess technically I'm still transitioning since I'm, this is my last month on active duty. Wrapping up my second month in my next career. So, there's still some things that you can't, fully progress until you're officially off active duty, like, getting new health care, things like that.
That's right.
So still kind of in this weird, kind of paradigm between two lifestyles, but yeah, no, things are going well.
Awesome. Do you feel like you're overwhelmed with the new job and doing the whole transition out? How is that going for you?
No, I don't think overwhelmed. I mean, I've definitely learned some things. I had my last, so I had 4 total CMP exams. They broke them up, and I had my last one this last week because they had canceled on me 4 weeks prior, like 30 minutes before my appointment, which I was pretty upset about. So then I got rescheduled, had to, wait an additional 4 weeks, and then just did it that last week. So, no, I mean, just kind of reconfirm some of the things I had, done my research on. But I mean, I would say just joining the federal workforce in general. I mean, there's still things you don't really know until you actually get in there and start seeing all these little deductions from your check and things like that. So,
yeah, that's a big surprise, huh?
Yeah. Like I didn't know that you had to pay into FERS. So that's the Federal Employees Retirement Program, but you have to pay 4.4%. So, that's a little chunk that comes out of your paycheck. I guess I was a little spoiled in that I never paid state taxes before because I'm a Washington state resident. We don't have state income tax. So, paying state income tax now, but originally, they were, just like any military duty station, right? They pull it out of the location that you're at. And so they were pulling DC taxes, which are actually higher than Virginia taxes. So then I had to go get that amended. So, I'm getting pulled at my residency rate. And so just little things like that you're not fully expecting. So it takes a little, while, not necessarily someone's there holding your hand the whole way. So you do have to be a little resourceful and proactive.
Yeah. That's leaving the military definitely makes you feel like a grown up now.
Oh yeah.
I was in the same boat, man. I lived in Florida all my life. I joined out of Florida, no state taxes, and then we settled down here in California. And now it's like everything's coming at me at one time. And I'm like, damn, I got to spin myself up really quick. So I'm talking to tax folks. I'm talking to, I did not know about this whole that paying into FERS thing. I didn't. That's something good. I'm going to write that down actually.
Yeah, it's 4.4% if you want to, I think you're just, you're automatically enrolled. I mean, I guess if I really didn't want, I was convinced wasn't going to retire as a federal employee, I could probably opt out and recoup that. But I think the assumptions that everyone's wants to, so you're automatically enrolled into that. So. Yep.
Okay. Is that what they call buying back your time?
No. So that's another good one, right? And so no, that's completely separate. So really, and so what I found, right, is so typically what'll happen is if you were on active duty or you were in a service academy and you didn't retire because you're not allowed to be credited you're not allowed to be dual credited for multiple retirement programs during the same span of time, right? So I can't get 20 years of credit in the military service and then concurrently get that same credit for the federal service. You have to pick either or, right? And so obviously the military program is more lucrative because you get, if you went off the high 3 and you're not in BRS, you get, the multiplier is 2.5% per year, right? So that's how you get to 50% after 20 years. FERS is only 1%, right? So at 20 years, you'd only get 20%. So obviously that's more lucrative. But say like, you came in, you served 8 years in the military, you ETS'd, whatever. Obviously you don't, vest retirement at 8 years. But if you were to become a civilian servant, what you could do is you could get credited for that 8 years of time as a federal employee. The thing is, then you've got that differential of, all federal employees are paying that 4.4% out of their paycheck every week, so that you got to make up that difference. So basically what they do is you have to go back, you have to talk to DFAS, you have to get a statement where they basically estimate what you paid or what you were paid in base pay for that time. You have to pay 3% of that basically to get caught up. So you have to pay them like a lump sum to get that credit, but then you get the 8 years. So it's a mess. But basically, since I'm a retiree, I can't, get dual credit, so it doesn't matter. So the only way, so there is a way that you can get that service, but basically what I would have to do is when I retired as a federal employee, I would have to waive my military retirement at the same time, right? So I'd have to do like a swapperoo. I don't think. I mean, you'd have to just wait until the time to see if it was more lucrative that way. I mean, it might be. I don't think it. In most cases, I don't think it is, just because of cost of living adjustments and things like that. But you technically could, right? So if I did 20 years in the federal government and then I was like ready to hang it up and retire, I could waive my military retirement, then get 40 years of credit as a federal servant or civil servant, but then I have to go back and buy my 20. It's it's a freaking mess. You can do it. I don't think too many people do, probably because A, it's a nightmare. B, you have to write a big lump sum check, and C, it might not be advantageous to do so.
I have not gotten to that point yet, but it sounds like I need to start reading up on that stuff because it's going to come. It's going to happen, man.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, that's good to know. Stuff I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. They also, I didn't know this, but they also have their own, what would you call it? Life insurance. So it's like
that's right. Benefits or something?
GLI or something. It's kind of like the SVGLI, right? So it's like, it's okay, but it's like every 5 years your premium's going to go up. And so I opted out of that. I just didn't see the advantage with that. But that's another thing you get automatically enrolled. You have to opt out of that. So that's another program they have. So that, there's a couple little, programs that I don't think too many people.
Uh-oh. What happened there?
I don't know. Click the button, maybe.
Oh no.
He'll be back. It's all good.
He was just done talking, I think. He was like, I'm just gonna cut it off right now.
Right. Mic drop.
Oh no.
I think my computer overheated or something.
There we go.
But anyways, like I was saying, there's a lot of little nuances I don't think too many people are aware of. So,
well, man, thank you for educating us on that, man.
But I will say the good thing is, right, you don't have to you don't have to burn up your leave time on weekends anymore. So that's a big advantage.
That is, I never understood that. And like, it's a weekend, it's given to you, and then you have to include that in your leave, right? So you can't.
Yeah. So this is something I learned a long time ago, and I don't even know the nuances of it. So technically, when you go home every night from, your duty or on weekends, you're technically on pass. It's not like you're free, like you own your time again, right? You're on pass authorized by your commander. And so, it has something to do with that. So your time is never technically your own, even when you're not at work. Because, they could call you in on the weekends to do whatever, that obviously has happened, I'm sure, to many people. So you're not truly ever off the clock.
It's in the fine print of the contract when you're signing.
Yeah, no, it's pretty sweet. So like I'm looking at planning a vacation in the summer, and I'm like, man, 10 days. I'm not gonna have 10 days of leave, but I'm like, oh, but I'm gonna use 2 weekends, so I really only need like 5 days. So it's only like half the time I got to burn up. So that was actually kind of like a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. I'm just checking the Facebook side here.
Let me ask Jerome, like, how's it been going, man? What you been up to, and some backstories. And actually, let me throw you a little tag up there. I found Jerome, again, another one of those wonderful treasures that I found on TikTok. You'd be surprised how many wonderful treasures you find on TikTok. But you've been doing a lot of psychology work and a lot of counseling work with people, not just military members, but also regular civilians as well. And anything from that side of the house, and that some wisdom you could throw out there for us.
Yeah, sure. So currently, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I do have my own private practice, but it's kind of more so now in name than me actually working it, because I work for a local counseling agency here in Columbus. So I see clients, couples, elderly, children. I do have a cap. I usually try not to go below 10 years of age, but there was a gentleman who was in the military who succumbed to the old antiquated system of stereotyping and things of that nature when it comes to behavioral health problems. So he was kind of, in a roundabout way, pushed out of the military. I believe he was a captain or a major at the time. So he ended up getting a job here on base. And last November, he took his own life due to interpersonal demons of that nature. So I see his youngest son, who is 4, and then his older son, who is, I want to say is 10. He told his mother that he didn't want to go to the therapist he was seeing. He wanted to come start talking to me, which, that's all fine. So I took that only because when I found out the story of how the young man lost his father, outside of that, I would not have taken a 4-year-old. I just have an issue talking with children who can't really respond or fully understand what it is I'm asking of them. But you would be surprised how much a 4-year-old knows and understands when you start talking about death and grief and things of that nature. It's pretty amazing. Because this little dude he's pretty sharp. I think he understands, because when I started going down that road once before, he himself steered the conversation someplace else. So he started throwing things in there to get us off topic. So once I picked up on that, which is, pretty immediately, I just went with him, and we just started talking about games and toys and things of that nature. And so usually my sessions with him, out of the 45 minutes, maybe 5 minutes of it is really focused on the grief and the loss portion. And then the other 40 minutes is just me being a guy hanging out with a little dude in my office, throwing a ball around or playing with a dump truck I got in my office, things of that nature. So he is probably really one of my more unique clients, I guess you could say. The rest are, whether it be police officers who are coming in because they want to, maybe talk about some things or get some things off their chest. Let's see who else. Couples, of course, single males, single females. I usually don't get a lot of single females because I am a male. So I typically get a lot more males, a lot more boys, a lot of couples. Got a couple of elderly gentlemen. A couple of them are retired military. So it's really cool talking with them about things. But in this day and age, there's a stereotype that men don't want to talk and men don't want to go to therapy. I would say, I'm not going to say it's not true or it's not accurate. I would just say people only know what they know. So if all you see are guys saying that they're not going to go to therapy, they're not going to do this and that, then that's what you're going to know. But all I know is from my personal opinion, like I said, my client load, I've got over 50 clients right now, and I guarantee 75 to 80% of them are all males. The other 20%, give or take, is couples, teenage boys or adolescent boys, and females. So there's a lot of men out here that are willing to talk, work through some things, trying to understand some things about themselves, whether it be things from their past and what they're dealing with, and things of that nature. I did have a veteran, which I was able to help him, and I did a write-up for him to help him get his PTSD claim. So I did do that for him. And that was, free of charge, I guess you could say. That had nothing to do with my practice with the Pastoral Institute. That was just something I had done, and I had access to some documents. So I just redid them, put his information on them, and then sent it to him and said, hey, when you submit your packet, here's some additional information, and I hope it, supports your claim, and you can get a PTSD claim for some of the things that he's got going on. But outside of that, I also work at a school, and the school I work for is pretty interesting. It is a school that specializes in children. So if you've got an IEP, which is an Education Individual Plan, 504, as well as behavioral disorders. So we're not just talking about this kid is bad or he don't listen or she doesn't listen. We're talking about oppositional defiant disorder, dysregulated mood disorder, intermittent explosive disorder. So things of that nature, they get to come to my school. There is a process to get the child into our school, but once they're there, we outnumber the kids. So it's very interesting. But that's I'm not gonna say it's so much challenging. It's just an interesting population to work with when you got all these kids that are either DFACS, which stands, depending on what part of the country you're from, Child Protective Services, things of that nature. We all got different names for them. But some of these kids are in foster care, so on and so forth. Many have a lot of different traumas that brought them into the state's custody. And then, of course, when they're looking at putting them in schools, sometimes they get to go into a traditional school setting. And then if they're lucky, they get to come to a school like ours where you get a lot more personal one-on-one. So sometimes when the boys start acting foolishly, so to speak, I'll get a call. Hey, can you come down to the classroom and talk to so-and-so? He's in his feelings today. And of course I go down there and I chat him up. But those are the two jobs that I do currently. Both are part-time, so to speak. So I work at the school from about 08 to about 12:30, 1300. Then I move on, ride 5 minutes down the street to the pastoral. And then I'm there from about 13:30, seeing clients till about roughly till about 1900. I was only working Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, but then I had to switch that up because my contract, when I did the math, I wasn't going to be able to burn through the money on the contract. So I'm sure you guys know the deal. It's the same as the military. If you don't spend that money, you don't get it back next year. So I had to change my hours, which meant I had to work on Fridays and Mondays. But again, it's at the school. So it's nothing, nothing crazy. But that's pretty much what I've been doing. I know this Saturday, I got asked to go talk to a bunch of gentlemen in regards to stress and different ways that men can deal with stress. And and manage it and things of that nature. So that'll be an interesting thing to do, at least for me, in that regards.
Man, that sounds like really fulfilling work, to be honest. So I do have a question for you, because I know I've talked to a lot of folks, at least transitioning service members, who are dealing with a lot of stress, dealing with the thoughts of, the unknown, the fear of the unknown on the way out, right? It's easy for me to say it, being that I've seen it, seen it through the whole transition, and now I'm on the other side. It's easy for me to say, it's going to be okay, but it's hard to kind of accept that because there's always a fear of the unknown. How would you explain that, or how would you comfort somebody or explain to them, it's going to be all right? Or what have you seen, and as far as in terms of people dealing with that fear of transitioning out of the military, if you can share that?
Oh yeah, sure. How do we used to say it? Well, I mean, it's just planning. Well, no, not that. I was thinking of what is it? Piss poor planning. Piss poor planning on your part doesn't constitute an emergency on my part. So,
right.
In regards to being veterans, I think all too often some veterans take certain things for granted. They take relationships for granted to an extent. They take their time for granted. They take, for lack of, people will complain about how the military doesn't take care of you, this, that, and the third. But I'm here to tell you, once you get out, you realize just how good the military does take care of you. You may not like everything it does for you, but in general, it does a pretty good job of being like that parent that just protects your child from all these outside influences and all these outside things. And then when you get out, you are like, oh my God, this is going on. I never had to worry about this. Oh my God. Like the gentleman was talking about state taxes, things of that nature. Like, oh man, I got to pay state taxes, so I think I always tell people, man, when you hit the 10-year mark, that's when you need to start planning your retirement. Or in a perfect world, if you're going to do 20 from the day you get finished AIT or your additional schooling, as soon as you get to your first duty station, in a perfect world, that's when you need to start planning your retirement. If you already know you're coming in and I'm going to do 20, so now you've got 19 years to get yourself ready to be done at 20, if that's what you want to do. And in a non-perfect world, I would tell folks, 10 years out is a good time to start planning your retirement. 5 years out is a good time to start planning your retirement. Hell, I started planning my retirement. Let's see. No lie. I told them I wasn't going to Afghanistan. I dropped my paperwork in January. Oh, wait a minute. It was April. Yeah, because we were supposed to deploy in April. So you're talking March of 2014, I started planning my retirement officially. And by the time I got on transition leave in October, I had everything done. All my problems were solved. All I had to do was just basically wait. But I knew what I wanted to do. So for me, it was easy. I knew where I was going to live at. I was moving down here to Georgia where my wife was. I had already went and got all my stuff approved to get my post 9/11 GI Bill, because I chose that instead of the Montgomery GI Bill. I had already went to the college I was going to, had already gotten my application put in. I'd already gotten approved. I'd already gotten accepted to the social work program. So I want to say by April, May of 2014, I was done doing everything I could personally do to set myself up for retirement. The only thing I had to do was basically wait until I was retired. But again, the trick is you got to know what you want to do. And I believe I talked to John a while back about this book I bought. I think it's back there on the bookcase, but it's called Real Life Management by Wayne Nance. And that was the book that really helped me figure out for sure where I was going to go and the path I was going down to. So to give you the book in 30 seconds or less, very similar to the Myers-Briggs type indicator or any other personality type test that you can get out there. This gentleman says his philosophy is we're all pre-wired to do certain things in life. If you can figure out what that is earlier on, you get into that field, 95% of the time, you're going to be happy moving forward. You'll go to work with a smile on your face, so on and so forth. So he breaks everyone down into 3 different personality types, sailboats, barges, and tugboats. Each have their own little, nuances or what have you. And then he gives you a list of jobs and careers that would be predisposed to that personality type. And one of the jobs for me, since I'm a sailboat, teacher, instructor, mentor, social worker, and some other things like that. So when I decided that I was going to move into social work, like I said, the hardest thing was making sure that the school where I was moving to had a social work program. And once that was it, it was fairly easy. So I would tell, if you're, again, perfect world, 10 years out, hey, you know what? Start looking at retirement. 5 years out, I would do the geographical bachelor thing. If you know where you're going to move to, I would go ahead and send the wife there with the kids, buy your semi-forever home. If it's going to be a temporary, send them there, let them get settled in, let the kids get in school, and then you just do the geo bachelor thing for that remaining 5 years or give or take. It's so much easier when you leave that duty station and the only thing that the movers are coming to get, if they're coming to get anything, are the things that's in this little apartment that you got or that you can't put in your truck or in a U-Haul. You're driving home. The family's already established. You don't have to do anything. It's like falling in on a great unit or a great platoon that was already running on 100, at 100%. When you get to, all you got to do is just keep the boat going straight in the right direction. But I think the biggest fear for those coming off is, again, that fear of the unknown. Mine was cured with a Excel spreadsheet that I got when I was doing the classes for retirement. And this spreadsheet was pretty neat. It had about 10 or 15 tabs, and it had what you were making in the military right then and there. And then it had like all your bills, everything. And at the end, it showed you where you were at, and then it showed you a projection of what you were going to be making once you got out based off of whatever you put in. So you kind of, for me, I'm a visual guy. So when I got to see what the numbers were, and I was like, oh, I only need, $500 a month to live in the same manner in which I'm living on active duty. Oh, okay. I was like, I could do that. It's not, it's not bad. It's not scary. So to me, that was what pulled the curtain back and made things less scary, because I was a little apprehensive at first, a little nervous at first. My wife was a small business owner at the time, so I was a little concerned about some things. But when I was able to look at the numbers and see how much money I had going out, what money I was coming in, and if I did go and get a job where I would be looking at, with going to school and whatnot, could I, at a minimum, maintain the same lifestyle I had? And that was key for me in losing a large amount of stress. So once I could see my numbers and know financially that I would be okay, I was like, okay, all right, this, now all I gotta do is worry about, passing biology and things of that nature in school. I don't have to worry about the money aspect. I did go and get a job later on, but that was because my wife bought me a motorcycle for my retirement gift. And I wanted to spend money on parts, and I didn't want the money to come out of my money. So I went and took my free time and got a little part-time job, which is a whole lot of fun, to be honest with you. So I would say, again, if individuals are if they're past that 10-year mark, I would tell them start looking at what they think they should be doing when they want to retire. Start looking at career fields. Start looking at areas they want to live, because what no one told me was, once you're in that transition window, nobody's going to give you a loan. Nobody's going to give you a loan.
Yeah.
Because they want to make sure you have income coming in. They don't care about your retirement. They don't care that you're going to get a job. None of that. So if you get out and then you try and use your VA loan, you're going to hit that same thing a lot of civilians do, which is, hey, we need, anywhere from 30 to 90 days worth of pay stubs, which you don't have. So I immediately went back on Facebook and was like, hey, y'all, if anybody's punching out, do not tell them you're getting out. And one of my guys wrote me back and was like, what do you mean, Sergeant D? I'm like, hey, brother, this is what happened to me. This is what's going on. So if you're moving to so-and-so and you're going to buy a house, do not let them cats know that you're getting out. And he was like, okay, no problem. So he writes me back like 2 weeks later and it's like, hey, I'm so glad you did that. We got a loan, we're at the house, we're good. I said, yeah, because once you have that loan, they don't care anymore. You're on the hook for the money, but they're not going to give you that money with them thinking you're not going to be around. So that's one thing I would tell individuals, if you can go and get a house early on, hey, please do. But if you are, running a little late like I was and you hit that window, don't let them know you're retiring and don't let them know you're getting out. Just get the money, get the loan, get the house, and then you can do what you want to do. Because that can be a whole nother additional stressor because no one ever, and again, that's one of those things you don't know until you're actually put in that position. I never thought about it like that, at least not from the bank standpoint, of giving somebody a loan.
That's one that I went through myself when we just purchased a house here, and they were asking for the loan stuff. And lucky enough, I got a job while I was on terminal leave, similar to Justin. And if I didn't have that job, they would not have looked at my potential VA disability because I didn't even have it at that point, right? So I asked them about that. I was like, hey, potentially I'll be getting this. They're like, yeah, we can't use that potential, man. You have to have something concrete and some kind of concrete income. So lucky enough, but that's good information, man, that don't tell the folks, the loan officers, whoever, that you're not, or that you are getting out before you actually purchase something. You need to have that income in place. Oh, excellent, man.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, Jerome, do you have that Excel spreadsheet? Do you still have that kind of goes?
Yeah. I mean, I can email it to anybody if they want it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see that and kind of put in some numbers too, and possibly upload it into the military retirement Facebook group. I think that'd be a good tool.
Hey, John, did you send me an email too, or did you just message me on this app?
I sent you an email. I can send you one after we're done, and I can grab it.
Just send me an email, and I'll just upload it and send it. And man, it's funny because a couple of individuals I've actually sent it to that were former NCOs that I worked with that were talking about getting out. I'm like, hey, check this out. I got this document. It's really cool. Go run your numbers, and it'll let you know where you stand at. And it was an amazing first sergeant I had when I was at Fort Knox, and he was the one that kind of opened our eyes to some things like that because he was about to get out. He turned down Sergeant Major, and he was getting out, and he just started talking to everyone. And it's kind of interesting how we were supposed to be doing some sergeant's time training, and it ended up being this NCOPD about financial stability in your future. And he was like, well, I'm taking up too much time, and everyone was like, nah, Top, no one cares about this class we were supposed to give. You need to keep talking because you give us some good stuff. And his thing was, he was the first person that ever broke it down in a manner in which, hey, this is my lifestyle. And when I get out, what do I need to do that's going to keep me at a minimum at this lifestyle? Because no one had ever talked to me or a lot of the guys I work with in that manner. And that's what really started making me use that verbiage when I talk to people is you have a lifestyle right now in the military. So if you were to get out of it, what kind of job do you need to have? How much money do you need to make? And things of that nature to keep you as comfortable as you are right now in the Army. And I think his was the police force. And we knew what was going to happen as soon as he left and got in the police force. He was going to skyrocket. I think he did like maybe a year or whatever as like a regular patrolman. And by the time I got back to Fort Knox, 3 years later, he was like lead detective or something that's like that. I mean, he just, but you had to know him. He was one of those guys that there was no way, they were going to waste his talents just being a regular patrolman. he flew up through the ranks. I would not be surprised if that dude is not chief of police right now. Wouldn't be surprised at all if he's not retired. Real good dude.
Yeah, I'd be yeah, if you could send it over, John, yeah, we'll throw that thing up on the group. I'm curious because I know that's a big thing that's holding a lot of folks back is the fear of the unknown. Like, am I able to keep this lifestyle going? You know, if you don't immediately have or jump into another position, and hopefully that kind of supplements your income or kind of allows you to live that same lifestyle, people are scared of that. People are afraid of the unknown. So yeah, we'll definitely put that up there, Jerome. Thanks for that.
No problem.
Yeah, and if you haven't, Jerome, if you haven't got a chance to yet, or if you haven't seen it yet, and you want to jump into the military retirement Facebook group, I think I posted a link up on it. You might have saw it, but your wisdom and your advice, I think, is some long sought after advice that not everybody has to give, and you just happen to be in a position to give advice on things like that and things such as mental health, preparedness, and figuring out how, as a alpha male, you go and talk to a therapist about some issues you may be having if you feel like that's something that you want to get into.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I reached out to you as well.
Yeah, I always tell people, man, if you know, I love cars, I love motorcycles, you know, things of that nature. So, I mean, if you're the kind of guy that's going to spend $70,000, $80,000 on a car and you never take it to a mechanic, you're an idiot, as far as I'm concerned. You know, you might as well just let me have that money and I can do something really good with it. Trust me. But, you know, I usually talk cars or sports or whatever with some of my male clients, things that I know they'll instantly get and it will click with them. Like, you know, you just bought a Mercedes. Are you going to go and buy and throw some cheap tires on there? Or are you going to go and get you some nice Pirellis or some Goodyears? There's a reason for it. So to me, I tell them that's the same thing when you go and talk with someone. It's not necessarily that you have a problem, but you're preventing yourself from having a problem. Like when you travel, do you map out your route? Or do you just get in the car and just hope, you know, everything's going to be fine? I mean, do you plan? Do you have a little extra money in your account? Do you look at gas stations? Do you know, oh, you know what? I got to use the bathroom. Let me do a twofer. I might as well stop, use the bathroom, get some gas, get some snacks, and get back on the road. Or do you just, you know, blindly just do what you're doing? So I try and get guys to understand that talking with someone is you know, old school PMCS. Preventive maintenance and checks. All I'm doing is keeping this machine running. Do you eat well? Do you sleep well? Do you go to the gym? You know, things of that nature. That keeps your body running good. Well, I need to keep your mind running good because your mind is what's going to make you your money for the most part. So there's nothing wrong with doing check-ins. You know, I go and see a therapist every 30 days. And what do? Oh, I just dump. I talk about anything that's been going on with me that was stressful the last 30 days. One of the police officers, that's what I do with him. He just comes in for a check-in once a month. He comes in, tells me some funny stories. We laugh about some of the crazy stuff that goes on here, and then he leaves. You know, so I tell people that's the best way to sell mental health, taking care of your mental health and things of that nature. It's just like putting oil in your car. It's just like putting gas in your car. It's just like washing your car. All you're doing is giving yourself a tune-up. All I need to do is keep going. You know, if you're just doing 30 days at a pop, I just need to make it to the next 30 days. And then I come back in, I get checked out. I'm still running on all cylinders. Bam, I'm out the door. I'll see you next, I'll see you in 30. But for me, that's one of the best ways to explain it is PMCS, which is something a lot of military members will understand. You know, I know different branches, we probably all call it something differently, but in the Army, preventive maintenance checks and services, and I think when you explain it like that, it helps remove that little bit of stigmatism that's still around, because it's still there. There's still some individuals that think, oh, I'm not going to go talk to somebody. I ain't weak. I can handle all my problems. Okay. There's a lot of athletes out there that aren't weak either. But when they get hurt, they go see someone who's going to do some ice treatments and cryo freezing and all this other kind of crap. And then next thing you know, they're back on the field in 2 weeks versus if they would have did it their way, they would have been out for the entire season. So I just try and tell at least my male clients that it's just, you just trying to keep that machine running well. And that's all you're doing.
Yeah, I think now more than ever, even after, you get out of the military, it's especially important to look at that whole concept of, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, because your life isn't over, right? I mean, you're probably at, 40 years old, around that age when you get out. And just even yesterday, I was looking at, stuff online, like what kind of supplements can I get? Because sometimes I need more energy, right? Sometimes I feel a little bit down. So how can I supplement that and take care of my body from the inside out? Probiotics, gut health, leads to directly pertains to mental health, things like that. So that's huge, man, is you definitely want to take care of that stuff, especially in retirement.
Oh, sure. And like I said, a lot of times, if you don't have things that you feel are, I don't want to say monumental, but things that you feel are more than challenging, you can go to just about any agency, especially if you're retired, depending on whether you elected TRICARE for life or things of that nature. Sometimes it's free. Some of the copays might be $5 or $10. I mean, $5 or $10 once a month to just chat with someone. I think that's a pretty good deal.
It's cheaper than Netflix.
Yeah. Hey, they keep raising that. It's crazy.
You can either get Netflix therapy for $20 a month, or you can get actual therapy for $5 or $10 a month. That sounds like a good deal to me, actually.
Yeah, that is definitely a much better deal.
Yeah. So one thing I had shared before on the Green Logbook channel on YouTube is, and I didn't know about this before, is Military One Source. We actually rate it, like veterans at 1 year, I guess 365 days after you get out of the military, you actually still rate Military One Source. So whether it includes tax services, it includes, therapy services, they set you up with the counselor, things like that. So you're not left in the dark when it comes to something like that. So that's potentially some help that you can get on the way out. As you're retiring, you don't have to come out of pocket directly or tap into your TRICARE. Just call Military One Source, and they can actually help you out with setting you up with a counselor, tax services, etc. And the website has a ton of resources. So if anybody's ever been on Military One Source, they know that.
Yeah, that's a good deal. And a lot of us, I know, as once we get on the insurance panels, and then there's a lot more exposure. So there are military members who would be able to find me because I am on the TRICARE panel. So if they did opt to use Military One Source and they were looking for a male therapist that was in the military, I would pop up. So that, when you're looking for a therapist, you can pretty much find almost anything that you feel is going to connect with you, whether it be you want one that's going to connect with you culturally or ethnically or whatever. There's just a lot of them out here, more than you would think. I think a lot of times people have that stereotype and don't think there's many of them out here. But there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit.
I want to shift it really quick to a question that John had put up on the Facebook retirement, the retirement. The Military Retirement Podcast channel. On your downtime, aside from work or anything like that, how do you fill your time just to, your off time outside of work, outside of military stuff? What do you all do? I know, Jerome, you mentioned like car and motorcycle, things like that. Justin, what do you fill your time with? I'm curious.
Right now, I'm pretty heavily trying to expand my real estate business. So I picked up a couple properties in the last couple months down in Florida. I've got a partner down there that does more of the operating. He's still active duty Air Force. So kind of managing those. I mean, that's really, I'm still looking to acquire more. I got another house in Texas. I'm trying to do a quick flip on. So I spend a lot of time doing that. When I can. It's kind of like a part-time job, right? I get some enjoyment out of it. I get to, speak with other people about something I'm passionate about. So that's something I enjoy doing. So it's kind of, a job and, a relaxation tool.
Oh, right on, man. I have not gotten yet to the whole house flipping thing. I talk to folks about it all the time. I want to get my foot in the door somehow, but time will tell. I'm just trying to get it set up in this job, and then we'll smooth things over with the whole real estate thing. But that's actually something you do, like, to relax.
I enjoy it, right? So
that's
just
good.
kind of a hobby, really. Obviously it's it can be lucrative, and I'm really trying to set myself and my family up long term. So there's a reason to it, but I do truly enjoy it. It's not like a dreaded other job. It's something that I actually enjoy speaking with, getting to meet people and talk to them about that and network. And like I said, I've got partners and I met a lot of great people doing it. And so it's something I do to kind of it's kind of therapeutic for me.
Awesome, man.
It's interesting that you put it in those terms, like treating. I mean, not treating it, but you actually see it as a hobby or kind of a side thing that you do outside of all the other work and life and family life and everything else. Like that's kind of like your downtime that then happens to be a business in itself.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean it's easy, right? It's not like I'm sitting there. It's not as easy as like sitting back watching, sports or Netflix. Like it can be challenging and stressful. But I mean, just like everything, right? You want big reward, you got to take big risks. You're gonna have to invest a lot of your time. So I mean, I do enjoy it, but like I said, it doesn't mean it's just it's all pleasantries all the time.
Oh yeah, I've known folks who rent their places out, as extra income, and I've just heard some horror stories, and it's kind of scary to me. Like we had a place in North Carolina, another one here in San Diego, and it's a little scary that now, like even in California, there's like the whole squatting thing. If they don't want to leave your place, then there's a whole law that you have to go through. That scares the heck out of me, so that's why I don't do that right now. But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say, I'm convinced there's nobody that actually wants to be a landlord, right? It's just an ends to a means, right? You do it because, it can be profitable and you can, set your family up, long term. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So like everything, right? It's just, it's preparation, right? It's better to leave a property vacant than have the risk of letting a bad tenant or a bad actor into your property. Really, I know a lot of first time investors or landlords, right? The first time they're going to rent out their house because they're PCSing or something like that. They just want to get somebody in there, right? They just want the income. They don't want to have to worry about it. And so, they ended up letting someone that's probably not qualified or they didn't do a thorough enough background check, let them in. And I think that's when you get the horror stories. I haven't had any horror stories up to this point, and I've been, technically an investor since about 2015. So I do think, probably some of that has to do with some of my preparation and doing background checks and verifying income and following up with references and things like that, not just handing over the keys to the first person that puts in the application.
Yeah, I've always thought that when I was going to rent out a place, I would want to do it for like a military family, only because I know that they're not going to be squatting, right? They're going to get PCS orders in 3 years, so chances are.
I mean, it's good and it's bad, right? So one, and it's not a horror story; it just happens, right? So I did, in typical fashion, right? You PCS during the summers for the most part. Most people leave in the summers, right? Especially if they have families, if they have kids, they're not in school. But, then you're susceptible to the SCRA, right? If they come up on orders off cycle and they need to get out, you have to abide by that. So I did. I had a captain that ended up leaving in like a February, and like trying to rent a house out in Colorado in February is not ideal. Because not that many people are moving to Colorado in February. And so, I ended up getting a tenant. I don't think it ended up taking me like that long, but it definitely prolonged the process. But that was something I had to deal with because I had a military attendant. So yes, they had job security. They get BAH. They can pay me. If they try to stiff me, I can find out who their commander is, so on and so forth. But again, if they deploy or they get PCS orders and they have to go, then you have to abide by that, and it might leave you in a less ideal condition.
All right, so let me see here. Let me pulling up the Facebook real quick, see if we can come up with some other questions that folks have asked.
Actually, you know what? John did ask a question that I didn't follow up on. So yeah. I know, Victor, you had asked a question in the group about the difference between VRA and VEOA.
Yes, perfect.
John had asked, how do you? I can't remember what the question was. Do you remember what the question was, John? Exactly?
Yeah. So how do you distinguish between those? So what I was doing was I was looking at USA Jobs, and when you apply to a job in USA Jobs, there's a subsequent survey that you have to fill out, and it says, are you, can you fill the roles of this GS, whatever it is, and then it would ask you, do you fall under VEOA or VRA, and it'll say something about 10-point preference, and then it'll talk about VEOA, I think it is, and it'll ask like, hey, have you served 3 years, but gotten out shortly after 3 years? And I'm like, well, 20 some years is not shortly after 3 years, but I don't know if I should apply for both of these. I don't know which one is better. Then I got to reading it, and then your explanation kind of explained a little bit better for me. Like, one is stronger than the other. One is for GS11 capped out, and the other one's probably a little bit lesser for folks who got out after 3 years and who are technically veterans.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit it, but yeah, VRA appointment, it's a non-competitive direct appointment. Like, you don't even have to advertise the position, right? If you have a vacancy in your organization and you have a candidate that, potentially you could fill without, advertising and interviewing and qualifying people, you can bring them on board non-competitively. So, it can be pretty lucrative or very advantageous for somebody that meets that criteria. And then the VEOA is just an eligibility to apply for a position. Because, I mean, sometimes there'll be stipulations on an advertisement, right? It will only be open to, interagency employees, right? So if you're, if you're in the Department of Defense, they might only, applicants might only be able to apply who are already employed by the Department of Defense. But if there's that VEOA eligible, then even if you're not an employee of that organization, you're still eligible to apply. So, just kind of get your foot in the door that you can compete with everybody else. But yeah, the downside of the VRA is it only goes up to GS, a GS at 11. But, it's a good way to get your foot in the door, right? And then you serve in that position for 52 weeks, and you're eligible to apply for other positions, steps above that. So
now, to your knowledge, is there any issues with choosing both of those when you go to apply? Like, I fall under VEOA, VRA, or do you?
So this is another interesting thing on USA. So you can apply. I'm trying to think how I say it. So sometimes you will see. So basically, on that screen, they're just trying to ensure that you're eligible using one of the one of the eligibilities for that position. So it doesn't really matter which one you pick, as long as you're eligible for, some rhyme or reason, whether you're a displaced employee, you're an interagency employee, you're a military spouse, you're a veteran. Some of them are open to, just the general public, whereas, anybody would ultimately be eligible. So as long as you're because when I first started applying, I didn't know exactly how it worked, and I hit the wrong radio button, and then I get the notice that said I wasn't eligible to, I wasn't considered because I wasn't eligible. So then I went back and read the fine print and kind of figured it out. So really, it's just to make sure that that your application will even be considered because you meet one of the eligibility criteria.
Yeah, I think I've been in that boat for a while, for a long time. I was applying for a couple places, and just kind of navigating the USA Jobs platform. I didn't know exactly what I was putting in there, and I was getting, though I knew that I fulfilled every piece of that criteria that they were looking for, I was getting notices that were saying, "Hey, look, you don't fulfill the criteria here and there." And it kind of bums you out a little bit, right? Until you start talking to folks who actually know how to navigate that system and know about it. I mean, I tapped into you and asked you this VRA question. Now I know. So without knowing, you're just clicking on things and putting things on there, and then you get that. You wait 2 months, have your hopes up, and then all of a sudden, no, you're not eligible for this position. So it's a kind of a bummer, but just like Jerome said, piss poor planning. You got to make sure that you are, you plan ahead and understand what the hell you're filling out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I would say even hiring managers aren't even super familiar with the system, right? They're relying on their HR specialist to guide them through it. And so what you don't know, you don't know. I mean, the only reason I found out what a VRA even was, I found out probably about 8 years ago. I was at Fort Carson. And so basically what happened was my boss, the statute advocate, we, had a vacant position, and we were trying to figure out, if we had a certain employee, and we're trying to see, is there a way that we can get this person into this new position, basically kind of a promotion. And so basically I just went to the HR specialist. I was like, this is a situation. This is like our desired end state. What are our options? And then so she started asking me questions. Is this employee, is she a 30% disabled veteran? I'm like, I don't know. I'll go check. And I found out she was. And she's like, oh, well, you can do a VRA appointment. And I was like, what the heck is that? And so that's how I found out. So don't assume that all these hiring managers, most of them are one-trick ponies, right? They know I've got a vacancy. I got to go talk to my HR department. I'm going to have to advertise it. I'm going to have to review resumes, interview people, and, make a selection. They might not know all the options because that's not really their skill set, right? Their skill set is whatever their position is, right? Running their department. Their specialty isn't how to hire people in the most efficient and effective way. So I would say, if you know somebody that's a hiring manager and maybe there's a position they like to get you in, but they're like, we got to go through the bureaucracy of this. You might have to educate them, right? Or point them in the right direction, because I wouldn't make the assumption that they know, all the options that are available to them.
Yeah, and that was actually my follow-up question on that, was like, how do you go about educating? Because I know I've had people come up to me and say, hey, yeah, we've got this position open, and they're doing the normal USA Jobs thing, and they may have the 30% veterans preference available on there, but actually doing a direct hire like appointment for some of those positions. If I was going to go to a hiring manager or go to an agency who is coming to me and saying, hey, you've got this skill set that we really would like to have, and we've seen you do work throughout the base doing this and that, you've done volunteer work with X, Y, and Z, and we want to kind of pull you into our organization, how would I go about even beginning to educate them about a direct hire appointment and how that works, and if they can figure it out and then make it work on their end?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the first place I would start, because there's so many direct hiring authorities out there, and they changed all the time depending on, critical needs of different MOSs and stuff like that. So I would just type in, OPM, which is our Office of Personnel Management, who manages civilian positions for the federal government. Just look OPM, direct hiring authorities, and you can just go through the list. Because it might be a job series that has a direct hire authority. Like, obviously the IT branches and the cyber security jobs are a critical need fill right now. So if you look at those, there might be direct hiring authority provisions where they could onboard somebody non-competitively, as long as you're qualified and, you meet one of the criteria, you could potentially get an offer without it even being advertised. But again, what you don't know, you don't, or you don't know what you don't know. So,
no, definitely good info. So I want to ask a question that I posed on the military retirement group here. And Jerome, I'll start off with you real quick. What drove your decision to want to retire?
The Army Tight Weight Program. The Army Tight Weight Program. I had failed by 1%, And like I said, we were in the window to go to Afghanistan. I was up at the brigade doing something, and I went past Sergeant Major's office, and he called me in, and he was like, "Hey, I heard you failed the height and weight," and I was like, "Yeah, I was 1% over, Sergeant Major. Yep, you're right. Well, we've been putting soldiers out, and for this and that and the third." And I said, "You know what, Sergeant Major?" I said, "I don't want to cause nobody no stress and no problems. I'll just go retire." And he was like, "Well, let me check." I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, "You ain't got to go check anything. I know how many years I have." So I went downstairs to S1 and said, "Hey, I need a retirement packet." And people thought I was crazy. They're like, yeah, I need a retirement packet. So I look at it from more of a spiritual standpoint. I believe, if you're a spiritual person, I believe God wanted me out of the military, because what happened about 2 months later was proof of that. I don't know if, I believe two of you were in the Army. So you guys remember when SSD came out? You had to do SSD 1, SSD 2, 3, and 4, and that. So, that online stuff. Well, there was issues with it, and I could never get in it. So I kind of was like, I'll get to it when I get to it. And I had planned on trying to do it when we got to Afghanistan. But about 2 months after I'd already gotten my packet turned in, and I'd already got my orders back and everything, I got a letter from the Department of the Army saying because I did not do SSD 4, I had 90 days after my return from Afghanistan, and I would be forced to retire. So when I look at it through that lens, I see it as he had a plan, and if I was able to get around that 1% on that height and weight, he had another plan for me to get out. So and when I look back at it from the time I decided to retire to the time I'm sitting here with you all, I've had no problems. There was nothing that got in my way. When I walked to a door, it was like, the scanner saw me and it just opened up. From finding a mentor to getting all my hours, to getting jobs, to getting more jobs, to getting more opportunities, to meeting people who would then ask me to come work for them later on. From the day I decided to retire to right this moment, I have not had one problem that or one obstacle that I had that I didn't instantly get around. So for me, I take that as this is what I was supposed to be doing. This is my path post-retirement. And I was not trying to get here. I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to be a sergeant major, all these other things. But, the big guy had other plans. And once I stopped fighting him and I understood this is what he wanted, for me personally, I've had zero problems getting here. Zero.
And Jerome, I completely understand that, because I have been having to deal with the Marine Corps' body fat policy for years, and I don't think that there's been maybe there's been one time that I made the actual weight. I've always been over, but I always get taped, right? They tape your neck, they tape your waist, and then they go from there. But I was just sick and tired of hitting the sauna. That was my routine before a semi-annual weigh-in was going to the sauna, go to the treadmill, working out, just losing all the water weight. And I was just sick and tired of it myself. So yeah, I completely sympathize with all that. And Justin, I'll ask you the same thing, man. What drove you to your decision to retire?
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's kind of a two-part answer, right? And so I'm a pretty analytical person. So just from a pure financial standpoint, it just makes sense, right? If you want to maximize your potential earnings in life, the second that your retirement vests, at 20 years, every day you stay beyond that, your opportunity cost goes up, because that's another day you can't draw your retirement. That's another day that you can't draw your pension. and then also, potential income from whatever your follow-on career is. So really, if you're going to stay on beyond 20, it has to be because you really enjoy doing what you're doing, if you're looking at it from a pure numbers standpoint. So obviously trying to maximize my, my earnings potential, because, obviously money just provides you opportunity, right? If you have a problem and you have money, you don't really have a problem, because, right, money can solve problems. But really, and so that was one. But then the second part to that really was just, and I think you can kind of appreciate this, Victor. But right, especially when you're in a small branch, right, a low density MOS, you're very limited in your career progression, right? As you get higher on the pyramid, there are fewer jobs that you can take. And if they're not appealing, your options are either you can go take that unappealing job, or, you kind of, resign and go do something else. And so that was kind of what it was, right? It was if I had stayed in, that I wasn't really thrilled with the idea of what my very few options were left at the later stages of my career. And then I just kind of, I had aspirations to be in positions where I could actually be a decision maker, right? As a warrant officer, we're technical experts, but we're never going to be, unless you go to what used to be called Fort Rucker, right? You're never going to be a commander, right? You're never going to be a decision maker. You're going to be an advisor, which some people are completely cool with. I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but I have ambitions to, be the person, trying to leverage my skill set and my knowledge to, make decisions that are going to improve the welfare of, people's lives, or a program or a system or something like that. And that was just not going to happen as long as I stayed in the Army as a warrant officer. That was just not my purpose there. So that was really what it was. Really, is a pure fiscal decision, but also, an opportunity to kind of flourish outside the military. Because once you take the uniform off, you can really go do whatever you want, whatever you're qualified for, right? You don't have to follow this very rigid path of, moving up the rank structure and taking specific jobs at specific commands that, that have, certain roles and responsibilities. You can literally go do whatever someone's willing to hire you to do, regardless of what your military rank is or was. And so that was really what it was. I just wanted an opportunity to kind of be the best version of myself. And so it was kind of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, the world is wide open for you now, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Shoot, I'm even applying to things I don't even qualify for, just to see if anyone bites. CEO of companies, and see what I can get my hands on.
I mean,
just learn.
And I would say I don't know, because I haven't really worked in the private sector since I was like 19, and that was more like service industries. But I mean, really, maybe I'm just being overly optimistic, but I think companies in general are looking more at people's, internal qualities and characteristics rather than what their institutional education or job history is, right? You want someone that's going to be resourceful, someone that's going to show initiative, someone that's reliable, someone that's determined. And so I think that's what really people want versus, do you have a bachelor's degree from, whatever skill set or, whatever field. So really, I think as long as you have the drive, determination that entities or agencies are looking for, I think you really can do just about anything, as long as they believe in you and you're able to kind of sell yourself that, maybe I didn't do this in my previous career, but I'm capable, and these are the reasons why. And this is kind of how my skill set aligns with the responsibilities of this role.
Yeah, and the generation before ours is actually kind of opening up that door and opening up that gap in the industry and changing the mindset of the industry as it is now, because as you said, they want people that are reliable and want to work and have skills, but also the people that are applying for these jobs have to want to go there and work as well. And the generation before ours, or I guess the generation after ours, is slowly moving away from that mindset of, hey, I want to go work for a company. I don't want to work there for 20 years. Like, they're more mobile than we ever were at, 20, 21, 25. So they have a lot more opportunities. Plus, with the internet and everything being globally connected nowadays, like they can do whatever they want, and they can do it from anywhere they want. So, and a lot of the older firms and bigger jobs are still tied down to that kind of, we need an office space, we need 10,000 square feet, and we need an HR department, and we need this and that department. And the generation after ours is a lot more agile when it comes to jobs and thinking in general, just because of the fact that they grew up with the World Wide Web in their fingertips that we didn't grow up with necessarily. So
yeah,
as
no,
long as we have
absolutely.
an internet connection, you can do anything, dude.
yeah,
Yeah.
case in point.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, yeah. There you go. Go ahead, Justin. I cut you off, man. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I kind of agree 100%. I think as long as you're kind of confident in your skills, I mean, I don't think there's any reason where you feel like you have to, be loyal to a company for 30 years or, be scared to kind of venture out and kind of test your value on the open market, to be honest. Because I mean, at the end of the day, right, whether it's malicious or not, but I mean, if you get fired or laid off from a company, I doubt they're going to lose much sleep over letting you go. So why should you feel like you basically owe them all this time for an indefinite amount of time that you owe them just because you took a job? So I mean, and really, and I know the statistics show that if you, I don't want to say job hopper, but if you do, if you are mobile and you jump around every few years, on average, you're going to make more in career earnings than you are just going to one company and just sticking it out, for a lengthy period of time. So,
Yeah. Plus, you also removed that ceiling of promotion that you spoke about from the Army side, at least in the same in the civilian world. If you're hopping around, or if you're constantly looking for a better opportunity, like you open up that ceiling a lot more than you would if you stayed with a job for 5 or 10 years, even if it's contracting or if it's just regular corporate work. Like you hit those ceilings pretty quickly, depending.
Oh no, and I mean, if you're good at your job, people will find you. I mean,
yeah.
It happens in the federal government. I didn't know this, but like the former Secretary of Labor, like he was there for like a year and a half, and then he got poached by like the NHL Players Association. So he wasn't loyal to the federal administration, right? He got a better opportunity and he took it. So, he was in the president's cabinet, but he got a better option on the private job market and jumped at it. So yeah, I wouldn't, if he can do it, I think everybody can. I wouldn't feel guilty about, leaving a company after you had worked there for a certain amount of time.
Yeah. And why not?
Yeah, that's one thing, right? You don't see. That's one thing you don't see in the military. You don't see a whole lot of that when it comes to poaching. But I mean, I'm sitting in my office and they were doing a walk around, and the lady saw my credentials and was like, "Hey, we got room for it if you want to come over here with us." And I'm sitting there going, "It's kind of rude. You're walking around with my HR lady and you're hitting on me about coming to work for you." I'm like, y'all people have no shame. But he's right. They don't see it the same way a lot of us did when we were growing up. It was, that loyalty. I'm going to stay with this organization, this, that, and the third. Now it's like, what are you doing for me? Well, hey, they're offering me an office and a car. Can you match that? No. All right. Well, yeah, I'm taking my talents elsewhere.
Yeah. That's capitalism. Capitalism is a competition. So you got to compete to keep your, your stellar employees as well. I wouldn't get stagnant or, lackadaisical and just assume they're going to be there with you. So yeah.
All right, so John, I got a couple of current events. If you want to get into that, or if you want to get into something else.
Yep. Yeah, I was just about to start shifting gears. Go ahead.
All right. So let me open up these current events real quick. Mm-hmm. So I was, as I normally do during my work day, I kind of use some of that white space to do some investigating on what's going on around the veteran world or the military world. A lot of times I find myself on Military Times or something like that. And one of them here is, and I'm just going to read off of my notes here. In one of the largest ever expansions of VA or veteran healthcare, all veterans exposed to toxins and other hazards during military service at home or abroad will be eligible for VA healthcare beginning March 5th. So that's March 5th of this year. That means that all veterans who served in the Vietnam War, Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, global war and terrorism, any other combat zone after 9/11 will be eligible to enroll directly in VA healthcare without first applying for VA benefits. Additionally, veterans who never deployed but who were exposed to toxins or hazards while training or on active duty in the United States will also be eligible to enroll. So let me copy this link here, and that's straight off the VA website under VA News. I'll throw it up here real quick. So that's huge, man. That's a lot of folks who were exposed to things in and out of deployment, will be able to get these VA healthcare benefits that a lot of folks were kind of needing. And I think it mentioned something about how it has outpaced like the PACT Act. Go back to it here real quick.
Yeah, it's basically an extension of like the Agent Orange thing that they did many years ago, where the department sat down and said, okay, Agent Orange is actually a thing. And then they set up a thing called Blue Water, Brown Water, I believe it was called. And if you happen to be in an area in the combat zone that was considered blue water, which was fresh water, no Agent Orange, then they didn't really consider you. And then if you were in an area that was considered brown water, which was the combat zones, places where Agent Orange would have been, then they kind of automatically just lumped you into that based on your history, your military history, your deployment history, and things like that. And now this is kind of an extension of that, tracking back through the Iraq, Afghanistan conflicts, and even probably like the Balkans peacekeeping missions and things like that. So they can actually get more people under the umbrella to get at least some compensation instead of zero.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the rest of my stuff. I'm sorry, it just cut out on me. My old 2015 MacBook Pro is just working as fast as it can.
Oh man, I thought I had the old. I think I got mine in like 17 or 18.
No, dude, this thing is still running as long as it can hold. It can't even hold a battery life. It's just I got to keep it plugged in at all times. Let me see. Let me pull it up here real quick. Google Docs. Gosh.
While you're throwing that one on the screen, I don't want to go back through an engineering development program that's available for veterans. I believe you can use your GI Bill to do it. But basically it gives you a license through technical boot camps for people trying to get into cloud computing, cybersecurity. As we've come up on that a lot in the podcast episodes where we're talking about employment, we're talking about careers and career help from different organizations. And a lot of it seems to point towards cybersecurity and IT. For whatever reason, it's the hot topic and everybody wants to be an IT specialist now. Being a nerd is cool now. So, but there is a traveler's EDP, which basically I'll just read this off real quick. The requirements are you need to have an undergraduate degree with technology major or minor, or a successful completion of state licensed technical boot camp, specializing in software, data, cyber, infrastructure, cloud, engineering, etc., with a cumulative GPA of 3.0. You have to have technical curiosity and capabilities, which means have an affinity towards technology and messing with all that stuff, be exposed to programming and majors that they like to look towards, or majors that are in computer science, software engineering, data engineering. Not to say that you have to have all this stuff beforehand, but it's good starting point. And then you can leverage this program, this Traveler's EDP program, to get education background in project management, analysis, signal core stuff, engineering stuff, and technology stuff. So I'll go ahead and grab the link and put that on the screen.
Okay, I was able to open up my thing here, the document. There's another one that just came out. It says GI Bill rules could upend requirements for online only classes. All right. So veteran advocates are raising alarms about a behind the scenes GI Bill rule that could allow students to use up their tuition stipends for non-degree programs, potentially wasting their military education benefits. So for the first time, the GI Bill is going to open up to unaccredited online programs that don't lead to a degree. All right. So there's like a loophole here. So the VA had mentioned that it could potentially provide scammers out there with a direct and unchecked access to veterans and their valuable GI Bill dollars. Okay, a veteran could potentially be charged their GI Bill by an education program that consists exclusively of YouTube tutorials that leaves a veteran with no industry recognized credentials. So there's a bunch of VA folks, advocates that are pushing back on this. But if you're leaving the service and you're looking to use your GI Bills, just ensure that you vet the educational institution, just do your due diligence, and then ensure that you're getting something quality for your hard-earned GI Bill dollars, because it has a potential to open up to a lot of scammers out there, especially when they're just going to sell you some courses, and you get nothing, no certifications, no actual tangible certifications out of that. So that just came out on, let me see here. It was on Military Times under the Education Transition tab, titled GI Bill Rule Change Could Upend Requirements for Online Classes Only. Check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else we got here.
Here's the the Travelers EDP. It's Travelers Insurance, I guess, is the one who sponsors it, basically. So if you go on higherheroesusa.org and search for Travelers EDP, you will find it. The link's just way too long to put in here. I wish I could just drop a link where you click, but it's not a thing yet. So
yeah, we got to figure that out, man, so we can click on this stuff.
Yeah, I think we can
Maybe
drop them in the comments.
In the comments. Yeah, let's do that.
Spot.
And I'll do that myself too.
Because they should be
Awesome.
they should stay persistently there, theoretically. Yeah, look at that. Nice.
Perfect.
And then you got the toxins link. So one other thing before we get, we're about an hour and a half in. It's all good, but just want to make sure that we bring this up and let everybody know. Women's History Month. If you have a way to get involved with it, if you're part of an organization that celebrates it, or if there's anything out there you want to look for, this is Women's History Month, and we do have a couple of interviews on the podcast, specifically women veterans, the most recent being one of our veterans who works with Higher Heroes USA, Arika. And then there's a couple more episodes for specific women veterans. If you're a woman veteran trying to transition out of the military, going through the transition process, or going into retirement, and you want some tips and tricks from a woman's perspective. One is an retired Air Force enlisted member. One was a retired Army enlisted member. So we do have a couple interviews that give you that kind of perspective, and just in mention of Women's History Month, just so you know, you're aware of it. And
absolutely, yeah. Shout out to the military sisters out there who are doing the damn thing and leading from the front.
I think we'll actually have one of our military sisters up on the podcast or on here, one of the two, I forget which one, coming in the next week or two, I believe. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. All right. Awesome. Yeah. So, hey, gents, thank you for your time. Thanks for sticking with us and sharing your information, Justin and Jerome. I know we put some of your information down there on the banners, and feel free to share some of this information on the military retirement channel and the military retirement group on Facebook as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Hey, Dylan, thanks for having me.
As
Yeah,
always,
thanks for coming back again.
time. Let's see here.
All right.
All right.
So that was a good one, man. I'm glad to have Jerome and Justin back on to talk, and it's good to catch up with us. I think that's what it's all about, really. Like, we want to talk about retirement, we want to talk about job placement, we want to talk about education, but we also just want to reconnect with other veterans. And this is a nice kind of like sit around the campfire. I mean, we don't have a campfire, but sit around and shoot the breeze a little bit, and also discuss some topics that are important to veterans who are going to be transitioning or retiring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Big time, man. It's all about the collaboration, the networking, right? Hearing the stories from other veterans who have been there, who have done that, and, you know, just sharing, picking up on the do's and don'ts of all that stuff, especially from the perspective of somebody who's already made that transition and gotten out of the military. You know, as we spoke to Jerome, he had mentioned, you know, the fear of the unknown. That was one of the questions I posed to him. How can we alleviate having that fear of the unknown when you are transitioning out, you know, and just knowing that it's all going to be all right after. And he also shared that Excel document that he talked about, just knowing how much you're going to bring in, you know, after the fact, and knowing that you only need a certain amount to continue that lifestyle. That's huge. Once that kind of that opens your eyes to that, you know. I know it did for me when I was doing my whole transition, when I was looking at it, and I figured, you know, I started adding in VA disability and in my retirement, and it kind of opened my eyes like, okay, well, I could live off of this and support my family. On top of that, both of us already had jobs. So we knew that we can make things happen. Once your eyes are open to that, the fear is not as prevalent, right? So yeah, that big ups to Jerome for sharing that as well. And then we'll put that Excel document, John, once you get it, we'll put it up on the Facebook group, the military retirement group as well.
Yep. Yeah, it's really just what gets measured is what actually matters, right? And that's really how you conquer fear in anything that you're facing, whether it's getting out of the military, or if you're considering buying a home or selling a home, or if you have to do some kind of financial jujitsu or even relational jujitsu in your life. You know, that's really what it boils down to. It's like figuring out what are the key thing, the metrics that you actually have to keep track of, and figure out where they lead to, and give yourself a ballpark figure to aim for, and then understand where that's at. You can actually see that target on the wall rather than just guessing. I was not so concerned with the retirement pay. I understood what it generally was. I was more concerned of tracking the actual days until my retirement date was. And I have an Excel spreadsheet that I use for that. And I had everything on there from all my points, all my years of service, and it spaced it out to my actual retirement date, which I think I started doing that sheet maybe 2 or 3 years before I retired. So it was on my desktop. It was on my third monitor in my office at all times. When people came into my office, they saw it. They're like, "What are you tracking, Chief?" I'm like, "I'm tracking my retirement." I'm trying to get out of here. So that's what I was. Yeah, if you track things and you keep track of things and you write them down and you set the targets and you actually see the targets, it makes things a lot easier to manage, a lot easier to digest, I would say.
Absolutely. And one of the things I'll share here, one of my last things here, is a question posed by a gentleman over on our Facebook group. And his question was, he's heading to TAP's retirement class on Monday. Anything that I had wished that I paid closer attention to when I was going through the class? And my answer to him was, yes, there are some things that I wish I would have asked on the front end, just so I'm more educated on that. I wish I would have asked the financial counselors who have a little block of time then when they talk to you. Ask the financial counselors about how taxes work after you retire, and also some lesser known educational benefits available to retirees and families once VA disability goes through. So there's not a lot of information out there until you actually get the VA rating on like Chapter 35 or even like vet tech, things like that. So you want to ask all those questions as far as what you rate. And some of the things might differ state to state, but as far as like federally, like Chapter 35, things like that, ask questions about those things. Make sure that you make these folks who are giving you that TAPS class earn their paycheck when they're actually asking you that. I also would have liked to see like an example of a resume from like a GS-13 to GS-15, if there's any available out there. I know that's one of the things as we go through the whole federal process or federal hiring process. That's one of the questions that I see most often is, how do I construct this resume? I would have liked to see one that's already constructed from somebody who was already hired, to see exactly how they worded it, the structure, the keywords, and just whatever was accepted already. So I know that there's like a resume builder on USA Jobs, but seeing one right off the bat on somebody who was already hired would have been great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I might have to put that on my do outs to see if I can link up with a couple people we've had on the podcast and see if I can maybe grab a copy of their resume, since they're already out of civilian service. They've retired from both. So
Absolutely.
Put that on my to-do list. Cool. Yeah, man, it's great to be on here again. Great to be out here with everybody live. Hopefully these are a little bit deviating from the podcast kind of norm, but we're trying to do things a little bit differently this year and trying to boost the numbers and trying to get to a point where we can get this platform and start bringing on some really heavy hitters and get some more leverage of the community itself and get more resources for the veterans that we support and the ones who watch this channel and listen to the podcasts and everything else out there. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and it's great to talk to you as well, and then share the good information with the masses out there who may or may not, be a part of the group. So thank you all for watching this. Thank you all for sharing with us. If you have any questions in the future, please feel free to jump on the comments and ask any questions. We may not know the answers, but as we do in the military, we will find out and we will share it with you. So just stay tuned for our next live stream. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. We will see you all again, definitely on Sunday next week. And for those who catch it off peak hours, if it's outside of your time zone, or if you're watching it in the middle of the week, every Sunday, 12 noon EST, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and 6 p.m. in the greater Western European areas. So be sure to check us out there. If you want to check out some of the podcast interviews, we've got a ton of interviews in there. We've got a ton more scheduled and a ton more to do. Different people, various different walks of military life where they've transitioned successfully out of the military. If they can do it, you can do it. And we're on all the podcast platforms, and we're also on Reads Across America on Wednesday evenings still. And so you can find us pretty much everywhere. Check out the Military Retirement Group on Facebook. That's where we hang out. That's where we answer a lot of questions. A lot of questions get asked, and you can come in there and either ask some questions or give some insights of your own that would be helpful to the group. And check us out on the YouTubes that are here on top, if you can see it. If not, it's the Military Retirement Podcast and the Green Logbook. That's where you will find us. All right. I think that's it, all man. Right.
Another week down. Awesome, John.
Check the box.
Check the box. All right. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe out there.
All right. Take it easy.